have written a book, and it's called Alone in Plain Sight. Alone in Plain Sight is really a book about my story, along as you mentioned that we'll get into the story of many others. And the whole hope of the book is that somebody reads it, closes it, and says, "Hey, now I feel less alone."
Sure.
That was kind of the whole purpose. If nothing else, hopefully there's some other nuggets in there that somebody would take away. But the whole purpose was to try to speak to anybody that's struggling or just wondering, "Hey, am I alone in this world?" And that they would close the book and say, "I feel less alone." I spend most of my time now doing Generous Coffee. You want people to be drawn to you. You want people to be curious about you. I have just always lived in this world where I felt like I was the outsider. Like, I'm not kidding, Britton, when I say that the Truman Show movie, like, I still have nightmares about it. Like, I still have nightmares about that. There's like an actual like diagnosis for people that have that fear of that, like everybody's in on something that you're not. And like, that is a real deal in my life. It was crazy. I watched this movie not knowing what it was, and I left it like it trembling in fear because I was like, that's me. Everybody's in on something that I'm not. And that it still haunts me to this day, not the movie, but that feeling. So like, actually, not just like talk therapy, like talking about it publicly, talking about it with people, releasing this like anxiety of, oh, people aren't going to like me for this insecurity I have, or this, health issue I have, releasing it and saying, if they don't like me for that, like, it's not really somebody that needs to be a part of my life. But talking about it and finding so many people who can relate. And that's been, I guess, more healing. Small things I do is a lot of meditation, a lot of contemplation, a lot of writing, and a lot of speaking into myself positive things. I know that I always thought that sounded so weak and corny. But so I was connected into a whole community of people who felt like outsiders. And I still am to this day, with Generous and with some of the stuff I do, still connected with people who feel like outsiders. But that, I think, was the reason then they asked me to be the Bachelor, because there was a relatability. I don't know, it was a while. One of the moments I thought was the least significant to anybody else ended up being, I think, the moment that the audience said, that's a guy I can get behind because he's like me. He isn't rich. He isn't, he doesn't have a six pack. He doesn't have these crazy stories of travel and all this stuff. No, he's just a dude from Indiana who found himself on the show, and he feels like an outsider. And that's a guy I want to see find love. And so that's kind of that story. And then it catapulted me then into this whole new career or passion or whatever you want to call it, where it has been about connecting people and trying to help people feel less alone who want to feel less alone.
Yeah, it's really it's an interesting journey as you're talking about it. And I know we've talked about this before, but it's fascinating to me every time. Huge lessons that you learn, because there had to be some fear in there when you went to be on national TV, and you go do that in the midst of feeling alone and having these experiences where it would push you into a seclusion or, into a darker spot, but you go out into the limelight and just sort of.
Yeah. Well, there was maybe even saying there's almost a spirit of giving up during that time too, where I was like, I have nothing to lose. Like, I've lost everything. Like, I have nothing going on. So why not? Let's throw stuff to the wind and see where it hits. It was a lot of fear, mostly fear afterwards, wondering, like, I guess I should say it this way. The only moment of fear was watching them show it on national television, because not everything gets shown.
Yeah, you're exposed.
And I was like, dang it. Like, once again, you set yourself up for criticism. You set yourself up to get pushed aside. Now, everybody knows your weakness. They're going to take advantage of it. They're going to help themselves by it. And it was the complete opposite. I don't know why. I think maybe, this was 8 years ago. And so I think it was the start when people were starting to talk about the loneliness epidemic. And I think people were just like, I'm ready to break out of this, because keeping it inside isn't helping.